Hey guys, Jay Williams here. So it's been a while since I've done anything on my plane. I was unemployed for a while last year and then got some work in the fall. And that contract ended. Then it took me a while to get work again. Now I'm working again. So besides not having money, I guess you feel a little bit discouraged when you don't have work. So I just didn't do anything on the airplane. So now I'm back at it. Last few days I've done a little practice oxyacetylene welding. And I think I'm doing a little better. So what I'm going to do is start with some simple parts, the rudder pedals and the brake pedals. And I figured my skills will be good enough after doing those that I can move on to more critical things like Station 0, which I'm going to extend 3 inches where the engine will mount onto the plane, so that's pretty important. These are just a few little tubes that I'll weld together, and I need to cut a few more pieces for the brake pedals and for some plate pieces that go on here. So these are pretty simple, so this is what I'm going to do now, and hopefully they'll turn out okay. Alright, so these are the brake pedals. So you just got, these are 5/8 inch diameter, 2.5 inches. This is about 6.5 inches long. Then we got a 3/4 inch diameter tube here. And that's essentially one brake pedal. That's what I'm going to weld up right now. These 3 pieces. Should be pretty straightforward. Then there's some other things I'll do after that. Bushing goes through here. A little piece on the bottom that's square tubing, which I don't have yet. There's a little plate that goes on down here, which I will maybe do that after I do this first bit of welding, because I do have that plate. So what I'll plan on doing for things like this, and here's the brake pedal. This is a piece of plate as well. These are both 65 thousandths. I'll just use my angle grinder and chop that roughly to size, and then grind it. Grind these curves on it and get it to be the right shape. So pretty rudimentary. So I'm going to go ahead and weld these up now. So these are the tubes, the 5/8. So this is the piece that is vertical, and then this is 90 degrees to that, and this is 90 degrees to it on the other side. And these pedals, by the way, let me go back over here. A rod sticks out from inside the fuselage above the floor, and this pedal hangs from it. So there'll be it will be the left side of the plane from this vantage point, and this pedal dangles from that, and you press on the bottom part. That's the arrangement. And so this slightly larger tubing, your foot will go on it, then this will go up from that, then this will go on the top, and the pedal will rotate around a rod that goes inside this. So I've just got the first one set up here. I just ground a curve on the bench grinder on both ends here. The radii are a little bit different. One's for the same size tubing, one's for the 3/4. So the ends of these have a slightly different radius. Each end does. So I'll start out, tack this guy, flip it over, tack the other side. Then I'll remove it, take a look at it, make sure it's square, and that these are on the same plane. And also then the center of this will need to be centered on that larger tube. You can't just lay them flat, because then this would be on the surface and the larger tube would be up higher. It would be offset. So the center of this will need to be suspended slightly up so that it hits the center of this tube, if that makes sense. But that shouldn't be difficult. Actually, I'll probably just clamp it together like this so it'll force it to line up correctly, as long as my grinding job was okay. Alright, that's what I'm going to do. So you guys have probably seen this torch. It's the Henrob or the DHC 2000 or the Cobra. It goes by different names depending on how far back in history you go. I saw a guy that took the aluminum off, and I think it's light. It's these two plates that go on here. This is light, so I don't think he did that because of weight. I think it just gives a little smaller area to hold on, and maybe he liked that feeling a little better than having the larger thing to grip on. So I thought I would try it. Anyway, I took that off. I'm just trying it to see if it's a little more comfortable. Since I'm new at this, I don't really have a preference. I'm just experimenting. So let's pull down my goggles. I've got a light here so I can see a little better through the mask before I start to weld. All right. A little bead on there. And melt that into the two sides. There, got a good tack. Flip it over, try not to knock it out of whack. Actually, I could probably remove the clamp. And there we go. 2 tacks. Whew, that's a bright light without the mask on. Alright, let's get rid of that clamp. I have to keep reminding myself. Alright, so let's see. Make sure that that's 1 inch from the edge here to the center of this tube. I need to keep reminding myself not to grab hot tubes. It's probably not hot down here. No, it's not. So, is that square? Looks pretty square to me. Yeah, it's starting to get a little warm right about here. And if I use this, I can hold it up to the light. I would say that's not exactly square. Needs to come this way just a hair. Oh, well, okay, not quite. Yeah, that's good. So just some light taps and that's square. So let's go ahead and weld it up. I guess there's something called regulator creep, which means that you can adjust this thing and then it can go out of whack because the gas coming out of the tanks isn't regulated absolutely perfectly. So, I don't know. And so I guess you just have to keep tweaking these over time. And some people say never add, so always have a tiny carburizing flame so that you've got a little tiny bit of a central cone, because if you get rid of the central cone entirely by adding more oxygen, you don't know if the regulator creep ends up adding too much oxygen, because has that central flame just disappeared or has it long since disappeared and you've got way too much oxygen. So I don't know. Anyway, it's all kind of fun stuff. See if I can turn this thing up. Seems like it's taken a while to form a puddle. Although maybe don't have quite enough oxygen coming out of the tanks. And I know my tip's big enough based on what I've been doing the last few days. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. I like to weld this upper right quadrant from my viewpoint, so I flip it over, then I'll flip it around and do the other side, the other corner. And what's kind of cool is after you get the initial weld done, you can go back. If you feel like you didn't get great penetration in one spot, you can go back and melt things up a little bit more and fix your weld if you didn't get it quite right. So that's kind of nice. If your weld's ugly or kind of sitting up on the surface because you didn't get good enough penetration, you can go back and tweak it. Pretty good. All right. Last but not least, all right. Don't pick it up. It's red hot. All right, now I can take a look at my handiwork and see if it's total crap or if it's okay. And I'll give you a close-up here. Okay, I didn't get quite in the crotch there. I'm not sure what I was looking at. And maybe I need to work in the weld a little bit more right there. So let's go back and clean that up. It's cool how it just gets so quiet after you add the oxygen. I'm not sure how that works, but it's cool. I want to make sure you have enough acetylene, because with an oxidizing flame, apparently, you end up with a very brittle weld, which obviously for airplanes is bad. There we go. I think that's... Need to add some more oxygen or reduce the acetylene. Alright, it didn't do too much cleanup on that weld on top, but I did add the weld down in the crotch there. I don't like that word, but I've heard other people call that the crotch. Well, not the where I added the metal down in there, it's not beautiful, but alright, so this larger tube goes on the end with 1/8 inch sticking out there. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to go ahead and weld up the other one. I'm going to let this cool off so I can handle it and clamp it up a little bit more easily. Oops. That's good. There we go. Alright, that's good. Add a little acetylene to make sure we're not oxidizing. I think that was pretty close before. Well, switch hands here so I can flip this around. Now here's a close-up of those first welds. This is the first one, this is the second one. The other one on the left doesn't look as good. Yeah, and this side doesn't look as good. Anyway. I think I got plenty of filler and good penetration. So they're not beautiful, but I think that'll work just fine. Alright, I got 1/8 of an inch of this sticking out over here. And I made these parallel, I think. And after I tack this one, I'll use my speed square again to make sure this is square. And then I think I'll be good to go. Okay, that's a good tack. It's pretty good. Well, let's do a tack. A big blob there and melt it in. There we go. Oops. Now you probably can't see what I'm doing. Another good tack. All right. Ooh, that's not bad. It's better than the first one, I think. And when you have a big enough flame, enough gas going to the tip, or a big enough tip, it really melts the metal fast. If it's not big enough, you just sit there and nothing melts. Starting to get hot. My rod's getting short, so my hand's getting close to this metal, and think that's good. I almost added a little more rod, but yeah, now the rod's actually getting hot for me to hold, so time for me to tack a fresh piece of rod onto that short piece of rod. Not too bad. And on the other one, I melted away some of this tube right here because it was the very end of the tube that I was 1/8 of it. This is 1/8 of an inch away from this, so I melted away some of this tube. I'll fill it in when I weld a tab onto there, 65 thousandths plate. But I didn't do that this time. This is better. That's not bad. I'm pretty pleased with that. Alright, the first chunk of welding is done. An experienced welder could have told me this, but I didn't know. This angle ended up acute. So this piece bent upward like this because I guess there's this side of the weld is different than this side because you got tubing here, you got no tubing here. So this got sucked up. So both of these are, I don't know, maybe, I didn't measure it, 88, 87 degrees, a couple degrees up. So I'm going to need to heat those up and bang on them a little bit, I think, to get those perpendicular. But overall, I'm real happy with my first welding job, and that was fun. I enjoy it.